now we're going to have Ms. Sherry Grosso. She is the instructor of economics and management science at our USC Palmetto College in the Sumter campus. She is going to give a presentation on interactive questions and online lectures.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Or, well, I guess if you can't, raise your hand, but hopefully everybody's hearing me okay. I want to thank you for joining us this morning. I know it's a little early, but might as well get the day started. And I'm going to be talking about a couple different ways to create interactive lectures that you can use in your online classes or in your traditional classes if you want to post something online for your students to see. And as Veronica said, I teach for USC, Palmetto College, Sumter campus. I teach both in the classroom and online. And I started with this little clip. I'm not going to go to it right now, but this is in the handout that I provided for you. And if you haven't seen this, I really encourage you to watch it. This is from the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And it's probably the infamous scene where the teacher is standing and lecturing, and he asks a question and trying to get everyone to answer it. And of course, he's met with blank stares and his famous expression, anyone, anyone, he keeps trying to get someone to answer it. So it's pretty funny, and I'm sure if you've taught in the classroom, you know, you've probably experienced this as well. So um, take a look at that when you get a chance. And I've done a lot of research in ways to get students involved in learning, and I think we would all agree that the traditional lecture, or sage on the stage as some people call it, tends to result in passive students. Some students expect that. They want to just sit there and, you know, think they're going to be a sponge. But with that one-way transfer of information, uh, we know they're not learning as much. Interactivity does lead to larger learning gains. And there's a lot of research on that that tells us that's kind of the way we should be doing it. And again, because I started teaching in the classroom, I was looking for ways to increase interactivity. And one way that I did, and this has been quite a few years ago, I started using the classroom clickers. And I'm sure some of you are familiar with these. There are a lot of different brands. Now that you can even use your cell phones if you want. And what I found is that it certainly increased student interest. You know, I could ask them a question and they could answer with the clicker. You know, it's technology, it's something they can have their hands on and do rather than having to actually raise their hand. So I found in the classroom that that increased participation and their enjoyment. And then when I started teaching online, I was kind of faced with a dilemma. I knew I wanted to include lectures, but I wanted to include this interactivity as well. So the question became, what can I do in my online classes? So one solution that I started using, and this was probably the first one I used for questions, and so this one I've used the longest. It's called Adobe Presenter, and this is an add-in to PowerPoint. And at USC, we can get this through our technology services. If you're not at USC, it's pretty reasonable. There's an education price that's a, less than 150, I think. But what I found is that it not only lets you record or narrate your PowerPoint presentation, it also lets you add questions. And these turn your narrated lecture into an interactive presentation. And I started teaching online for USC back in 2010. So I've had a lot of practice with this and these different tools. So uh, what I'm showing you are ones that I found that really do work. So let's take a look at this. Um, if you purchase Adobe Presenter, you would download it, and once you do, you get a tab on your PowerPoint menu that says Adobe Presenter. And there are a lot of features that you can use. You can, as I said, record your slides or record the narration to your slides, and what that creates is a narrated lecture. So this is one way to do just the narrated lecture. Um, you can insert videos, flash files, images, audio, all kinds of stuff. I mean, you can make your PowerPoint as sophisticated as you want, really. But what I'm going to kind of feature today is this ability to add a quiz. And your quiz can have one question, it can have multiple questions. It's really up to you. And when you start working with this, the best way to do it is to have your PowerPoint created and get it all set up. And then you can decide how you want to add the quiz and what questions you want to include. Oops. Okay. When you click on that menu bar and you click on Manage, you'll see that there is a default quiz already loaded in the Adobe Presenter. You can use this one or you can add your own. In this default quiz, you have a lot of options. You can add questions. You can change your output options, how you report it. You can do a lot with your appearance, the uh, font size, all kinds of different things. So you can really customize these any way you want. Um, and again, you can add your own quizzes. You don't have to use this default one. So here, when you click on Add Quiz, you get to determine your quiz settings. And a couple things to pay attention to is this, I don't know if you can read this, but it says required. I always make my quizzes required. I don't want them optional. The whole idea of putting them into the lecture is that I want the students to have to answer the question that I'm putting into the lecture. Because I think if you've done, narrated lectures for your online classes, you might run into the problem that I have faced. It's that you spend all this time creating this great lecture, but you don't really know if your students are watching them. Now, I know we use Blackboard at USC, as I said. There are statistics tracking features that you can use, and you can go back and see if your students, who's watched it and who hasn't. But I find those a little bit cumbersome. So by inserting quizzes that are required, what I found is that students have to watch it because there's a graded question in there if they want to get the points. Okay, so there's some other features that you can experiment with and see what you want to use. You can shuffle answers and questions and all kinds of stuff. So again, you can get pretty sophisticated. I did want to show you this, and this is kind of expanded as they have enhanced Adobe Presenter and upgraded it. And I think the version I'm using now is 10, and I was just looking, they're already up to version 11. So they do enhancements to it. Now there are all these different types of questions. So you really have a lot of flexibility in creating the question. And the one I'm going to show you an example of is just a straightforward multiple choice. But again, you have all these different options. Okay. Once you decide the type of question, and again, this is the multiple choice, you would type in your question, and they have name here. I don't generally worry about that. You can name them if you want to, or if you wanted to get, again, a little more sophisticated. But you would type in your question. Now you can cut and paste, but you can't upload questions directly from Word. I think someone had asked me that once before. So as far as I know, that doesn't work yet. But you can cut and paste from Word or a text editor if you want to. Once you do that, then you determine how many question choices you want, and you can have one, you can add some more, you can do quite a few. I just stuck with the typical 4 right here. Okay. Once you have your answer choices, then of course you tell it which is the correct one. Now, beyond that, there's some pretty neat features that you can take advantage of when you're writing these questions. And I'm going to show you one of them. When you click on your answer choices, down here is a little tab that says Advanced. So if you choose that, for each of your answer choices, you can then customize the feedback for that answer choice. So for example, here, this would be the correct answer for that question. So you can have feedback that says, great, that's, whatever. Also, what you can do is tell the quiz or the presentation where you want the student to be directed if they get that correct answer. So the default here is go to next slide, but there's a drop-down arrow, and you can actually choose where you want them to go. Either a particular slide, you can go to an internet link, several choices there. The other pretty nifty thing you can do is actually record audio feedback. And you can do this for the entire quiz, or you can do it for each individual answer choice. So if you had a more involved question and you wanted to explain why this answer was correct or why it wasn't correct, you could actually just click on that little red dot and record feedback for the student, and they would hear that when they chose that answer. You can also upload a sound, that little folder right there. And I've played around with this. You can have, applause if they get the correct answer or whatever. Now, here's an example of the same thing, this advanced answer option, if they select one of the incorrect choices. And if they do, you can explain why that's incorrect, and then have them go back to a different place in your presentation to review the material again. And that's why this one says go to slide. You can pick a specific slide in your presentation that would review that material so that they could see it again and then give them another chance to answer that question. So once you set up your questions and you're ready to go, you would record your narration on your PowerPoint. And this is recording the audio here, and you get a little menu. You can record each slide separately, one at a time, or you can just record straight through your whole presentation. You can pause. You can record it and listen to it, and if you don't like it, you can record right over it again. Or, in my case, if the dog barks, I can do it again. And once you do that, you can decide if you want it on every slide. You don't have to have narration on every slide. It's up to you. But you'll get a whole menu to do that. And in that present file down here called Using Adobe Presenter. That gives you some more direction on doing this and some of the details of using these features. Whoops. When you are satisfied that you have your recording set, another thing that you want to do, because you have this quiz in here, is to decide how you want it to be reported. Now, they have this feature called SCORM. It's SCORM. I use that because that allows me to put this whole presentation with the quiz into Blackboard. And when I do it, it automatically creates a Grade Center item in Blackboard so that when the students watch this lecture and answer the question or questions, however many you decide, it puts that score in the Grade Center. So again, it makes the students accountable for watching the presentation because they know that there's going to be some points attached to the questions. And you decide how many points you want. You know, it can be minimal just so that they have watched it, or it's completely up to you. But that feature would need to be checked. And then you do this thing called publish. And what you're doing is publishing the entire presentation. And when you publish, you have three choices. You can publish just to your computer if you want to test it out first and see how it works. You can publish to the, well, this is the Adobe Connect server that we use at USC. You can publish to a server if you have access to one, or you can publish to an Adobe PDF file. If you want to use this in Blackboard, what you would do is publish this to your computer and choose your location, and then select this option that says Zip Package. Once you do that, you go into Blackboard and create content in your menu, Build Content, and you're going to select this option, Content Package SCORM. And again, there are a few more details on doing that in the handout. When you do that, you'll get your options just like you get options for setting up any assignment. And you want to make sure this SCORM availability is on. You can determine how many attempts you want the students to have, you know, set up your range if you want to. Track number of views for sure, and then again the grading. So the whole point of this is to have a grade in the Grade Center, so you want to make sure that's checked, and then a due date if you want a due date. Okay, so those are some of the options you would just need to pay attention to when you were putting this lecture with the quiz into Blackboard. And again, I have a sample one here. It's pretty short. I'm not going to go to it now, but feel free to watch that later. And again, you can get as elaborate as you want. This one's pretty straightforward. Once you do that, and your students have taken the quiz or watched the lecture, answered the question, then in the Grade Center, you'll see, just like any other assignment, the date that they watched it or interacted with it, and then their score. And again, that would vary probably depending on if they got them all correct or they didn't. What's also interesting is just like with any other assignment in Blackboard, you can do view details, and when you do, you can actually see how long the student spent on there. Now, of course, they could open it and just leave it hanging, but in general, it gives you a pretty good idea if they at least interacted with it. So this one, you know, 5 minutes, which was about the entire length of the presentation, so that's good. And it shows you their grade. This student, what a slacker, that SG2, only spent a minute and I think got the same grade, yeah. So just some more details to help you see if the students are really, you know, getting in there and watching these lectures that you spent all that time working on. Okay. Another product that you could consider if you want to create narrated lectures with questions is Camtasia. And Camtasia is a pretty sophisticated video editor. And I have used Camtasia in the past. Um, Again, it's not super expensive. It's a little higher than Adobe Presenter. It's probably, I think, a little less than 200 for the education pricing. But when I first started using it, I started using it just to record my screen, to get and narrate as I was talking, um, to create lectures. And then they added a feature where you can uh, add a quiz and add quiz questions in Camtasia. So as you can see here, there are a lot of options with Camtasia, you know, the zooming and the callouts and the transitions. And now there is a feature where it captures your voice as you speak if you train it. So, you know, that's an option to think about. And it also has a feature where you can record a PowerPoint and turn that into a lecture. So again, it's a little more sophisticated than Adobe Presenter because it really is a true video editor, and you can do a lot with it. Um, does Camtasia have the quiz feature for Mac? Not that I know of, and in fact, I did just look at that yesterday. There is a Camtasia for Mac, but it did not say it did the quiz feature. So yeah, I know the Mac people. That's too bad. So sorry about that. Okay. And again, when you use Camtasia, you can choose your type of question, of course. Type in your question. Now, the question types are a little more limited here. We just have multiple choice, fill in the blank, short answer, and true, false. So not as varied as the types that you'll see in Presenter. But you can do a little with the feedback that you have with each answer choice, kind of like I showed you in Presenter as well. Camtasia also has a lot of options for how you produce the content to screencast, Google, things like that. So again, pretty flexible and just something if you want to be a little more advanced in your video editing. Um, they also have fabulous help. I really like TechSmith as a company. They're the ones, by the way, who provide Jing, which is the free downloadable version of Camtasia. Although it doesn't have questions, Jing lets you record your screen for a short 5-minute or less presentation. So you can record your screen, you can narrate and create just a real quick little video if you want to do some video feedback or share some directions, something like that. So that's another product from the same company. But this link I have for you are tutorials for Camtasia. So you could watch those, and that will give you an idea of some of the features that it has, and if you want to really invest in that more sophisticated kind of product. Down here is another link for you to click on. This is a tutorial that I did several years ago, and it's about salary negotiation with my twin sister, Dr. Terry Smith. And salary negotiation is something that she's kind of passionate about, so she does a really good job with that. This was kind of a wrap-up tutorial that she did after a presentation. So in creating this, it has a lot of bells and whistles. It has some titles and transitions and little flash audio images, and it does have questions. So I wanted you to see what that looked like with Camtasia as opposed to Adobe Presenter. So make sure that you click on that. I think you'll enjoy that. Now, the third option I wanted to show you for a way to add interactivity or questions into your lectures is this product. It's called Edpuzzle, and um, I'm relatively new to this, but I think it has potential. It's pretty interesting. It's free, which I like, and all you need to do is go to this link. This is the link for the website, and create a teacher account. So pretty painless there. And what you do with this product is find YouTubes or videos, but YouTubes are pretty easy. And when you do that, all you need to do is have the URL, or they have a lot in already created, or videos that have already been identified that you can work with if you want to. But I have several that I use in my class, so I kind of picked a couple. Once you do that, it puts the video in their little workspace, and you have a couple options. You can crop it or edit it if you want to. You can record over it, or you can record a little directions at the beginning or the end. You can add what's called an audio little note, so it'll pop up in your video. And then down here, the little question mark, you can add questions. So this is a way to add questions to YouTube videos. And when you click on each of these little buttons here, when you're working on this, it comes up with a little box, like this was on the crop icon there. It says, why crop a video? And it tells you why, and then the show me how. So it gives you a little example. So it's very easy, and there are a couple tutorials with this as well. So it's not hard at all. Once you do that, um, again, this is a YouTube video. You can put your question in. So that little green box shows that there's one question in here that your students would answer. And you can put this in Blackboard. And there are two ways to share these. You can have your students create an account, but that's a little cumbersome if you don't want them to do that. They give you the embed code, so then you can just put this in Blackboard with the embed code. And again, they give you a few choices on the types of questions that you can create. You can create an open-ended one if you want just to have the students, type something or share a thought, something like that. And you can create multiple choice. And again, with your multiple choice questions, you can, once again, put feedback with each choice to explain why they were correct or not. And I do want to show you one quick thing, if this will work. I just wanted to show you Blackboard, if I still have it up. Okay, so just how this might look in Blackboard. This is not a current class, but let's see if we can go down there. I just put a couple samples in here. So when you put in that Adobe Presenter presentation, you could call it whatever you want. The students would click on it like that, and it would load up in a separate window. Well, I guess I need to allow my pop-ups, huh? And once you do that, it would launch the presentation for your students. And then so it looks kind of like this Adobe Presenter that we are doing right now. And I'm not going to make you listen to the whole thing. What you can do with this is your students have the ability to control this. They can move through the slides, play it. Over here, You have all the slides in the presentation. If you click on the CC or the Notes button, it would show you your narration, okay, so that way you get your captions. And one thing I did want to show you is that even though they can scroll through the slides, when you get to the question, they can't go farther. So see, that's blocked. So they can't move on unless they try to answer this question. And if they pick the wrong answer, again, you get the explanation of why it's wrong, and it takes them back to the slide where they could review the information. You would go forward and try to do the question again, and then you get it correct, and then you can continue on with the presentation. So that's kind of what it looks like, and then once they do that, you would see that in the Grade Center. And then here's that Ed Puzzle thing. And again, you just play it so it's embedded within Blackboard, and there's the question for that. Okay? So I think that was about it. And if anybody has any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I appreciate your attention this early in the morning, and I'd be happy to help you with this if you need any guidance. The other thing I did want to share is that I actually use Adobe Connect a lot just for sharing my screen and doing lectures as well. It doesn't let you have the interactive questions, but it is a great little tool for screen sharing as well. Thank you. Thanks, Cedric. I'll have to check that one out. Get a hoot. That sounds good. I like that. And here is the survey, I see.
Yes, I just clicked on that link, and each user uh, should have gotten a new web page to open in their browser. Just a couple of questions, a one-pager, and if you would be so kind as to give Sherry some feedback on her presentation, um, and go from there. But I appreciate that, Sherry. This was an awesome presentation.
Thanks. I enjoyed it.
Sherry has actually maybe 10 more minutes allowed for any questions. If anyone wants to address any questions with her, you can stick around for a few moments.
I know Veronica's got a busy day.